Welcome to this week's episode of the Nerd Chatter Podcast, where two nerds sit down and chit-chat about nerd things that we find throughout the week. As always, I'm joined by my good buddy Garrett. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. A little tired, burning the midnight oil last night in the stream. But, we got some things to talk about. Mainly, I guess some roundup stuff to talk about towards the end. It's nothing too dramatic this week, But, a couple things to chit-chat about. But as always, I'd like to go over some free games or heavily discounted games that are run across throughout the week. And as always, Epic with their free game every week. You got Cook Serve Delicious 3. That one is free on the Epic Game Store until August 18th. Also, something I didn't mention last week, we got PS Plus for the month of August. You got Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. Cross-Gen Deluxe Bundle. That's PS5 and PS4. You have Yakuza, Like a Dragon, PS5 and PS4, and then Little Nightmares, which is a really good game. That one's for PS4. And then also, something that I've kind of ignored in the past, but if you do have Amazon Prime, you do have access to quite a few free games. For the month of August, StarCraft Remastered, Zack McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders, Beasts of Maravilla Island, Recompile, Scourgebringer, Family Mysteries, Poisonous Promises. I have played none of those games. Except for Tony Hawk Pro Skater, which I actually played last night on stream and embarrassed myself because I'm just way too old to try to pull those memories back. That's like 20, 25 years or something like that. Or however old that game is. It's been a while. But I did try Cook Serve Delicious 3 last night as well, which is kind of fun. It's more of like a click-based, feels like a mobile cooking sim. You're in a food truck and that type of thing. But we got some time out of it, so it wasn't all that bad. But moving on into the segments, I think we're going to go ahead and let you start this week. What do you got?
Yeah, so the Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation came out, and have you had a chance to watch it yet?
Oh, it came out, and I didn't even know it came out, to be honest.
I
know we talked about it. I just didn't know the exact date. Yeah.
That's okay. Anyways, so it came out and I watched it this week, and it had some very pointed hints of what's going on with Rey, Poe, Rose, and Finn after the sequel trilogy ends. First of all, they've pretty much confirmed that Finn is a Jedi in this. He sees the Force ghosts of Anakin, Obi-Wan, Leia, and Kylo Ren. So Ben Solo, and it's very much like a Christmas Carol in the summer. Like it has that plot. Like you have the three different people coming to serve a lesson to Finn, and it's a fun little. I think it's a 49 or 48 minute movie. Just fun.
Is it kind of like that smart-assy style that Lego movies are in, or is it more like a?
Oh, it totally is.
It is.
It's playful for sure. Anyways, one of the things that I felt really weird about on this show, so they have that new hotel experience it's like the Star Wars Galaxy Cruiser, or
the Galactic
you know what I'm
Cruiser.
talking?
Yeah, I forget what the ship's
Cruiser
name is, but
a house.
It is a thing. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So a lot of the plot takes place on the Halcyon Cruiser, and I felt very much like an advertisement for it. Like, here's some of the things you can do with the Halcyon, and it
kind of sounds like a selfless plug.
Yeah, but it's just like you're really gonna get that amped up for kids that are gonna be watching this, and that felt a little slimy.
Didn't they also add Batu or whatever it is into something? Batu, is it Batu? That's
Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, didn't they add that to something?
That was in the Lego, one of the other Lego movies.
Was it?
Yeah. But the Batu has been in a lot of books.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Prior to Disney's building of the little theme park, or?
Yes, actually.
Oh really?
Yeah. And it was probably planned that way. I would, at least it wouldn't surprise me if it was planned that way, that we're going to build a theme park and it's going to be at this place called Batu. Include it in your book here.
Yeah, we need some neutral ground type of location, like some trading post that's not
Yeah.
Something they don't want to recreate Tatooine because it would be kind of boring if you look at Tatooine. It's kind of like a boring.
Well, it's kind of bland.
Yeah, so you want something that's a little more extravagant.
Yep. Anyway, so at the very end of the movie, Finn's whole struggle is they're all getting ready to say goodbye because they're gonna go do their own thing now. So this whole vacation was to get them to do like one last hurrah type thing, and Finn just struggled through that, and so he had the Force Ghosts to help him through that.
And this is like Rey yellow lightsaber time, like post movie. Okay.
Yep, post movie. Like Finn is declared a Jedi in this. I don't remember him like with a lightsaber, but doesn't matter.
Anybody can be a Jedi these days.
Yeah. Well,
like the kid with the broom who had the Force.
Yeah, but like
whatever.
He saw Force ghosts and like was using the Force in the show. So, anyways, so Rey is going to be headed to the unknown regions to search for Jedi temples there. Poe is going to be training new X-wing pilots.
Mm-hmm.
Rose is leading relief missions by systems affected most by the First Order.
Mm-hmm.
Then Finn is going to go searching for Force-sensitive people in general.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this definitely hints at a couple different things that are going to be happening with future Star Wars content.
He's pretty against any Disney Plus type of stuff, so we can't really expect him to have like his own little series like Obi-Wan, you know?
Yeah, that's. I've heard that before from other people that are now showing up in Disney Plus. There's always a price.
Waving the checkbook at you.
Yep.
Like,
anyways, so we have the Rogue Squadron movie coming out nebulously. They're still working on details for that, but it would not surprise me if it's Poe getting his squadron put together and going on new adventures with whatever the challenges post First Order.
They're making a Rogue Squadron show, right?
Movie.
Oh, is it a movie? But that's going to be, what is it, like original, like OT time frame?
They did not say original trilogy. There's been hinting at that it would be post sequel trilogy.
Oh.
So if that's the case, it's Poe.
Yeah, Poe's Rogue Squadron. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be down, to be honest.
Oh,
The flying he was doing in the film was a little bit like, okay, bro, chill out. Like, there's just no way. Like, like literally every angle he hit, he shot something, and it's like, all right, you can chill out. He doesn't need to take out every single thing that gets in his crosshairs,
Yeah.
But he did have a kind of a Mary Sue thing going on when he was behind those flight sticks.
Well, except he, I mean, in canon, both of his parents were pilots.
Yeah.
He got training as a pilot at a very young age.
It was just the scene where they're on the planet surface and they're like doing the dogfight directly above them and they're doing the ground fight below them and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a little bit too unbelievable, like what he was doing. It's like, it looked good, but I think they could have toned it down like 20% and it still would have been like sick. You know what I mean? Because like he took out like 7 TIE fighters in like, what is it? like 9 seconds or some shit. It's like, damn, bro, chill out. Like, it's not, like you just release this guy on the whole fleet and he'll take out everything, So I think they could have toned it down, but they did convey that he's like really good. So I mean, I'd be down. That'd be dope.
Yeah, I think that'd be a really good movie. I mean, with Rose, I really don't want to see her in any content unless it was, I feel like she would be a really good politician later on. I mean, we see Padme and Leia both doing like relief missions and everything like that. And then become politicians.
Yeah.
So that would be like a natural thought process there. If she'd be a politician, then we can just see her every once in a while from the distance. That'd be cool.
I went back and watched that bombing run scene from, what was it? Was it The Last Jedi? The bombing run where they're just slowly creeping towards like the destroyer or something, and they're frantically trying to drop bombs on this thing.
Yeah. And that's her sister.
I don't understand anything about that scene, to be honest. There's no gravity. Why do you need bombers in space Couldn't they have shot it from super far away like they do everything else? Couldn't
Well,
they
I
gone
mean,
faster? Like, I don't.
those are all valid thoughts.
But it wasn't cool. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it has to be cool.
But I mean, there have always been and always will be bombers in Star Wars. That's just kind of how that is. There's,
Yeah, but
Y-wings and everything like that.
You have the ability to operate these vehicles in other media. They don't need to go 2 miles an hour and like directly head on. And it's like you could do bombing runs. They come in, boom, 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 and they're gone.
So like those specific bombers are more like strategic bombers, like in World War II. Like that's what they were envisioning for that. I mean, this was a Rian Johnson thing.
Yeah,
100%.
I just don't think it logically lines up
No, it
with the
doesn't.
fact that they're flying around in space with force shields and all this
Yeah.
other crazy artillery, and then they need to drop these bombs, and then they
Yep.
fail miserably and like barely get it off at the end, and it felt hollow. Something that was just scribbled down to add some type of weight to that character. You know what I mean? Because I know in the comic books there's a lot about the sister and her.
Yeah.
Whether or not that was fabricated pre or post.
That was
I'm not
post.
sure. So I mean, whatever. I see people standing over like that sister combo and from the comics and stuff, and it's like, yeah. But in the movie, it was like, I don't know who these characters are. I don't feel any weight in her loss. Like I see it as an effect to lead her to act a certain way. I don't, it's like I'm the one watching the movie though, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I'm supposed to feel something. I don't know who this is, and I don't know why they're flying so shitty, and like I don't know why they're doing these bombing runs in space that are super slow. And
Well, in I mean, again, there was a strategic bomber where those bombs that they were dropping were magnetic. So they did like a negative magnetic charge to release them after they were armed and everything, and then
they had to create gravity.
fly.
They had to create some form of gravity.
Exactly.
Because there's no gravity in space.
Well,
and,
it's just it's not necessarily creating gravity. It's creating the force needed to get them out of the vehicle and send them in the trajectory that they want. But I mean, that ship was massive that they were trying to bomb.
What are the bombers? What are the TIE bombers drop? Don't they drop like ion bombs?
Yeah, and they're mini. They're small bombs, and Y-wings drop small bombs too. So like these are like big, heavy-duty things, and there's a lot of them. So I mean, I don't think a Y-wing run on these would have done crap, because Y-wings are a lot more maneuverable. They're fast.
They're dope.
Not as fast as X-wings. Yeah, Y-wings are freaking sick.
I like the design. They look so like shitty and just like
Yeah.
cobbled together, but the shape of it is sick.
There's a Bandai model kit that you should look at. It's a Y-wing, and then you can like put a black or brown wash on it, and it looks freaking sick. Highly recommend it.
There's a $40 Millennium Falcon toy that I saw. Impressive amount of detail, and I kind of want to like strip it and paint it. I want to buy it.
Yeah.
But it has a couple buttons on the back, makes sounds. It's motion activated. You could tilt it. It makes different sounds.
Oh, it's that one, yes.
And it has the glow up light in the back that's super bright. It's like, it does everything, and actually the paint job on it's pretty impressive until you start looking really close. I'd like to go in there and get some, steel on some pipes and junction boxes and get some wires and stuff, red and yellow and all, like just try to, fix it up a little bit. It'd be super fun. But,
Yep.
That's a frivolous waste of money. But I still want it because I'm a child.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not like I just built or am working on another RC car. Whatever.
I mean, that's fun though. You get hours of enjoyment out of that. But
Yeah.
what am I gonna do? Just fly this thing around my house?
Let your son play with it.
He would eat it. Literally everything just gets eaten.
Okay, so what do you think about Rey heading to the unknown regions to search for Jedi temples? I feel like that's like a repeat of what Luke did post Return of the Jedi.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if it's gonna prop her up as being some type of like,
Yeah.
I just don't want her to be like just some council member sitting in a chair and like just talking down to people in like future films and stuff like that. I don't want her to be set up like that. I'd rather see her go out and hunt for these things and deal with crazy shit like monsters and maybe some leftover Sith and that type of thing. But If it is like, we jump, there's a formed council now, and there's some younglings, and there are Jedi's training, and she's just kind of like doing her more like oversight deal. Like, I don't want to waste the character. I want to see her like do shit with that lightsaber, because literally you didn't get anything. You didn't get her as a full blown Jedi until literally the last seconds of the film when she picks up
Yep.
her lightsaber. So I want to see her swing that thing around.
Yep. Well, and I feel like at this point in time, we either need another trilogy to explain what's going on with these characters, and I if there's a new trilogy, that means there has to be something big and crazy going on, and I necessarily don't want that. I'd rather have something like just a comic books or Disney Plus shows of these characters where it fleshed out their story after the fact, then have a trilogy 100 years in the future where they're all dead, and then there's something big going on, like pre-Disney days. There is the Yuzong Vong, like super scary people that and creatures that they all had to deal with. I'd be up for that.
Yeah. I mean, you know me. I just want them to go 1,000 years in the past,
Yeah, I'm all for 1,000 years or 2,000 years in the past, or a couple hundred years in the future.
I mean, we're literally talking about the last hair of this timeline is all of these films and most of this media has been focusing on like the last 1% of the, not even, it's like less, it's such a minute fragment of the tail end of this story. It's like you're literally dealing with people that are cobbling together this original premise, when you have a plethora of material to dive into to actually explain all of this pre-tumultuous Jedi, the more archaic type of Sith activity, like you're less political and more aggressive. I mean, they've always been political, but the Game of Thrones aspect, like I said, could be tossed at the Old Republic so easily and it would stick.
And everyone would gobble that.
Yeah.
Because, everybody is clamoring for just like seeing an action shot of 1,000 Jedi and 1,000 Sith just running at each other with their lightsabers out and everything. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants that.
Yeah, you want to see that Return of the King style fight, where you get Sith and Jedi getting chopped to pieces in a huge battle. So, like you want to see some grittiness. It's not like you haven't seen people get chopped in half before in Star Wars. So, I mean, that's what I think we all want, but you can't get that from literally just this storyline of the tail end of this family. And by this point, we're talking about not even blood relation to this family anymore. They're trying so hard to grasp on to anything that'll let them extend that original storyline, and just I'm over it. It's like Game of Thrones. They could introduce characters left and right, and whether or not you were familiar with these characters or not, whenever they entered the storyline, you got you delved into that character. You got really involved with that character. Just the fact that the Mountain was so popular in Game of Thrones, it's like he didn't have very much film time. It was very minimal, but the smaller character, you could do that with so many characters from the Old Republic,
of course,
like endless. There's so many that they could do, and
but that's what I'm kind of going for is if we get content for these people, I don't want it in a trilogy. I don't want another trilogy with these people. I want it 100 years in the future where hardly anybody knows who Skywalker is, or if it's just myth at that point, and legend.
I mean, kind of like how the Jedi was in the beginning of the original trilogy,
Yeah.
That's not even really the case. That was just, it wasn't known across the entire galaxy between every single person. It was like, a pocket group of people knew this was legit, and the rest were just kind of like outsiders, so.
Yeah. And I'd be all for a story where we don't see any Skywalkers, we don't hear of any Skywalkers, except like one brief little mention like, oh, hey, look at that. But that's it.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
we can only hope.
yes.
I don't know
But
how that's going to work out, but
my real hope is that they start going back in time to Old Republic time frame, because that's where I feel like if they really want to capitalize on what people want, that's where it is.
yeah, because it's just they can woo people with the visuals,
Yep.
like the very shiny and polished pre-Empire world that even the original trilogy kind of operated in. There's every planet's its own deal, but you still had that polished vibe from those movies. So
Yep.
whatever, it is what it is.
It is. Anyways, that's pretty much it that's going on with this show. I definitely would recommend it. It's a short thing, so it doesn't require a lot of time.
Yeah,
If it was a 2 hour deal, I would probably say if you have 2 hours just to kill, go for it. But
maybe
because it's so short,
yeah,
it's just a fun
short.
little deal. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and move on. And this is a very sad story for me personally. It hits home. Something
Are you
that
gonna be
I've
okay?
been. I mean, I don't even know, to be honest, but something that I've been hyped up for years. By this point, with 2000 and like early 2018, but Hogwarts Legacy has been delayed yet again. Wrote a little blurb here, but it's it's pretty straightforward. My thing, okay, so I'll get into it afterwards, but let me just read this. It says, per a tweet on the official Hogwarts Legacy Twitter page, the game has yet again been delayed until 2023. This time with the more direct date of February 10th, 2023. The internet was not happy, as this is the second or third time the game has been delayed. I think second or third. Actually, I think it might be third. Coming months after the company has reassured fans of a 2022 release. With COVID and other hiccups, the fan base expected a delay to be announced back then, but the company reassured fans the previous release window was still active. Now, months before the game's release, the fans are met with the casual announcement of another 3 or 4 month wait for the long-awaited title. I think this warrants a discussion about these companies and their flagrancy with the release dates in the year of 2022. Our Lord, 2022. We cannot have a game be announced without them delaying it. Like, okay, so
Okay, let's
discuss.
talk about this.
Discuss.
So-
too angry. I'm too angry to start. You go.
I would much rather have a delayed game that is extremely polished with minimal hiccups once on release than something that's going to be clunky or have massive glitches or server problems. I mean, we got what, Battlefield 2042 when it came out, right? And it was unplayable like for online play. And I mean, largely it's been unplayable for the last year now.
Yeah.
And that's put a really bad taste in my mouth. And I do not want them to do that with Hogwarts Legacy because that would ruin so much.
I mean, whether or not it has a multiplayer, I'm not sure.
Well, it
That's a
doesn't
big
matter if it
issue
has
with-
a multiplayer or not. It's
I mean, that's
the
the main
fact that-
issue with things like Battlefield 2042 is the netcode is trash. So
Well,
it's
yeah,
like,
but-
it's like when it comes to a single player game, day one patches exists, and like those tidy up quite a bit. If it can't, then the game was jacked, right? And then you got your Cyberpunk CD
exactly.
Projekt Red BS where they're just overhyping something they're not even close to having finished,
Well, and I think that's where these people I don't know what I can't remember what developers putting this out, but I think they want to avoid that, where there's so many glitches, so many issues upon release, where it would just be so much negative PR for them. Like I said, I'd rather have a polished game on release, especially if it's a single player game, because I would want to just sit down and start playing it and play it until I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, it's still going to be a day one patch, though. That's always the case.
Oh, there's always going to be a
never-
day
yeah,
one patch, but I'd rather have those and have it be ready to play even with a day one patch than
that's always the argument, like, oh yeah, I'll give them all the time. If you don't want a broken game, stop bitching, blah blah. Like that's all the responses
Yeah.
are in these comments. I get it.
Well,
However,
and-
I'm not like, I'm not the one that's fault when it comes to these companies announcing these days. It's like, you can't. I got to look into. I know you can't do a pre-order on Steam for it, but if they're taking pre-orders and then they just go and delay over and over and over again, I have a genuine issue with that. There is something wrong with this video game industry if they can't properly determine when they're going to release a game, if they're expected to manage crunch, expectations, in terms of public reception, the faith in the company, and look what happened to CD Projekt Red, absolutely like destroyed their reputation. It's like, just shut up. Like, I don't need to hear the date then, you know what I mean? Like, just stop telling me dates. Like, have everything done, a
exactly.
month of advertising before, and you use that month to do your day one patch. Like, stop telling me whenever you design a map, whenever you put a bush in your level, stop telling me about it. Stop telling me that it's going to come out in 2028 or 2018. And then it was 2022, then 2023 now. So it's like, just stop. We're doing this for years now. And it's like, I'm thinking we're knocking on some type of door in the realm of, like, false advertising by this point, because people are investing money into a number of these projects where it's like, oh yeah, like, make sure you get it on Epic, pre-order now, pre-order and get this, and then get this, pre-order and get this, or no, pre-order on Steam and get this, and then they go and say, well, we're going to go and wait another 4 months. And be like, no, like, you shouldn't be so flagrant in doing this. Like, this should be literally a last ditch effort. And these video game companies need to, like, backpedal, because you can't have a single title anymore. There's no reliability on release dates until you start seeing people get, like, advanced copies, right? Or there's betas that are pumping out for people to play with. Other than that, like, it's literally just these companies, like, just bait and switching people. And I think just the fact that pre-orders for certain games are taken can so flagrantly delay these titles without really giving a shit, it's like, I don't think that's right. So
I definitely agree with that sentiment. However, Hogwarts Legacy has not been available for pre-order. Other games that have been available for pre-order and that have been delayed, that is sketch for sure.
Yeah, which is common. Like, that's the more common aspect of it.
Yeah, and I think with developers in general, they, especially since COVID, they've had a really hard time nailing down when everything's going to be done to a point of release, because things are just different now. And I mean, I get that, I understand that, and that's why
it is not an issue that they don't have control over. Like, it is not like, just like, they just need to shut up. Like, just stop doing that.
My next point is going to be that instead of, when you announce a game, putting a date on it, unless you are absolutely certain that that date is set in stone, don't say anything about a date. You just say, hey, we're making this game. We want you to be excited about it. We're going to release some information for you over the next however much time until we release it. Until then, enjoy this trailer or enjoy a beta or whatever. That's a proper approach. Then 2 months out, 1 month out, or whatever that proper time frame is. Be like, hey, we're releasing the game in a month from now, 2 months from now. Here's all the advertising now.
And, like, it's by this point, it's like, you can guarantee the date's going to be wrong when they do state a date. So they should just they should know that before stating a date and just refrain from doing it. But yeah, I have an issue with just like the flagrant nature of video game companies these days when they can go about doing that. And when it does come down to it, the act of giving specific dates or even years, especially if you plan for a game to release at the end of 2022, for example, seeing it jump to 2023, it doesn't really matter if it's 3 months or 4 months. It feels like a year, you know what I mean? Because literally to your eye, you look at that and it's a year difference. But like, I know that they didn't take pre-orders and all that stuff. I'm just saying that in typical fashion, you do have these companies that are more than willing to take the money, but also not live up to any type of responsibility or anything like that. And then you got, time management. This is a management issue. This is not the dev issue. They're not properly understanding the workload that in the time frame that they need to balance to get the thing done. So This isn't something where you're, it's like, oh, taking too long to design these steps, you know, or these cobblestones. It's just taking too long. They have to extend it a month, you know. No, it's literally, you know, you got a planning board, and you know, I used to work in particular industry where we had progress boards on the wall, and it was like a 15-foot gigantic piece of paper with super tiny lines on it that had each individual task for each day, and you'd hang a string with a small weight, and you would move it via a little push pin every single day along this timeline. You know, and you're hustling every little time. Every time you move that line, you're properly balancing every single thing that needs to be managed before you can move that line again. You know, and it's daunting. But I'm not getting that vibe from the people in charge of conveying the proper level of hype for these games and stuff. I'm not saying that like Hogwarts is like being blown out like it's a cyberpunk. I'm more so just irked because, you know, they had the opportunity earlier in the year. I forget what it was when they like released a trailer or they made some announcements. They were asked, you know, is it going to be a 2022 release? And they reassured fans that it was, you know. So it's like, I don't. Yeah. It's like, okay, like, yeah, you're just dicking around with all these times. Just stop doing it. So. That's my thing. Like, I'm gonna play it, but at the same time, like, now I'm bummed because I wanted to play it when, you know, on Christmas, you know, or not on Christmas, but around Christmas to get like that snow vibe, you know, and like cozy shit, and, like nice and toasty in the house, and you know. But now it's like February. It's like, okay, so Valentine's Day, I guess, is what around that time, you know, spring. Like, I guess that's cool. Like,
so let's talk about a game that I feel like has done the approach right, and that's going to be the Elder Scrolls 6 game. There's no official title for it. There's like literally nothing for it except a backdrop teaser of the map, or it's not of the map, but
they did that to clean up the 76 mess. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't do anything in terms of development. It's literally just like an idea. You know what I mean? It's no different than me making that graphic for our Halloween episode when we first started doing these recordings. It's just like, you know, like, oh, look what we got in the future. It's not really doing anything. They're tickling the balls.
But I mean, they have it on their release slate. They don't have a date attached. They don't have anything attached, but they've given out little bits of information starting with that E3 in 2018. Mm-hmm.
I mean, my opinion is that they should resort to something that like smaller developers do when they're trying to be extra engaging with their community, is a progress update bar, you know, like on their official website, you know, where they lay it out kind of like when you order a pizza from Domino's, you know what I mean? Like, it tells you where they're at in the progress. And I've seen this multiple times for servers, for small indie games. For things like that, they show you, it's like, okay, so pre-production's done, level design is at 95%, character design is complete, weapon mechanics is at 84% or 85% completion, you know. And it's like they're giving updates, and then you can kind of see where the progress is going and have an understanding of where it is. You don't need to have a date, you know. You're more anticipating when that bar is going to fill up. I just think that there's different ways that they can convey it rather than just kind of pulling people along and just throwing out these dates, which is also very stressful for the dev team, right? The expectations that is put onto the company itself and how it can backfire the way that they're doing it is like, you know, CD Projekt Red is a perfect example. I forgot, like, their profits are down like 60% or something like that. Like, some dramatic drop in their respectability as a company and their reliability as devs, you know. And that's horrible because it's CD Projekt Red, and they were revered before this. So I don't know. I'm more irked at the fact that they did this to my game, and I'm angry. I mean, this is the only game I've told you, it's the only game I've anticipated for years, you know, before Cyberpunk came out and just ruined that year for me. You know, the only other game I've been hyped for is Hogwarts Legacy, having played pretty much any other alternative I could, whether it be Gmod or Minecraft or what have you, you know. I've tried everything, and this game looks super dope. But I get it. If I want it to be good, give them the time, let them do it. Yeah. All I'm saying is I wouldn't be pissed if I had an expectation that it was supposed to come out in November. So you gotta say, I mean, I looked at that original trailer and was just like, frame rate is pretty bad. Some of the environment design is pretty bad. You can get around that. I mean, how Rust will look pretty if the light hits it right. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can't, a grain of salt. These glamour shots don't really define anything, so it was good to see the depth of mechanics and stuff. So I get it. If they announced that there's some type of multiplayer experience with it, they can have as much time as they want, you know what I mean? Because that would be super, super sick, dude.
Yeah.
Like the ability for you and I to run around the school, taking classes, to buff up attributes, and then leave campus to go do some Hogwarts style adventures, would be super sick. But even if it's linear, I'm all right. Just stop dicking me around. Watch. It's going to get to January 15th, and they're going to be like, unfortunately, due to, and it's like, oh.
I'd be sad for both of us if that happened.
I'm not having it. They need to stop with all that. So, but yeah, I just wanted to vent a little bit my frustrations on that. And, that's pretty much everything we have in terms of the two big topics. But, anything else you want to talk about that Hogwarts thing? Anything that you heard or saw?
No, I didn't hear that it was delayed again, so it's a surprise.
Yeah, very. I was distraught. I was like stumbling around my living room and just like I got hit in the head. It's like at that tunnel vision, and the room started closing in on me and shit. But I'm all right now. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and go over some Twitter news, some roundup information. If you want to head on over to our Twitter channel or Twitter page, at Nerd Chatter Show, I like to retweet and post interesting articles, some juicy tidbits that pop up throughout the week. Gathered a few of them here. We'll go ahead and work our way down the list. Rosario Dawson casually mentions return of the Punisher, and then retracts the statement the next day by saying she heard it from someone at the convention, and that it was an unreliable source.
Whoops.
Very confident when stating this. It was very casual, and it was. It's like you got Daredevil coming back, right? You got some of these other characters that are starting to get shoehorned into the MCU. What do you think the odds of Punisher revisiting and becoming part of the MCU? I'm not sure if you saw Punisher.
I think I saw an episode or two.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd be great for the Thunderbolts.
I mean, you could have him as War Machine.
Yeah.
And he can come in Armor Wars or whatever it is. There is a point in time in the comic books where Frank Castle dons the War Machine suit, and on the face has the skull, scratched on it.
That would be pretty
has,
cool.
The white on his chest, it has teeth or something. I forget what it is, but looks super cool. I mean, it's your typical War Machine, just with that done up paint. And I think it's a little more black. Super sick. He's a very violent, Iron Man type character. But to see him in that would be sick, and he's a good actor, so having him involved still would be nice. They do have some decent talent in those shows that they're neglecting a little bit, but do you think she did goof, or do you think it was something that she heard and she kind of just telephoned it?
Was she part of the show?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so, actually, yes. I believe so, yes.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, she's definitely in the in crowd at Disney right now, so she might have information.
Yeah.
Or if she's going to be a part of whatever that might be. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say.
I want to see it. I think Punisher and Deadpool in the same universe would be hilarious. I like that, just kind of over nagging. One character is over serious and the other character just is goofy and likes to nag. I think that'd be a nice little juxtaposition between the two characters. And
yeah,
you got two rated R properties, and if they released a rated R movie with those two, that'd be pretty funny.
Yep.
bring in Cable again, and you're good to go.
With that thought, how would they bring Cable back when he's Thanos?
I mean, they already did that. You know what I mean? And
Well, I mean,
Thanos was done
two separate
so
Marvels.
Thanos was done so well that I didn't see him at all. Once in a while I might get some of his facial expressions coming through, but the CGI and the character development and the acting of that character was done so well that I can easily separate the two. I wouldn't even have to worry about it.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Thanos was done really well, and that's not how he acts typically. He had a very hubris type of acting style, and even the differences between Infinity War and Endgame, between Thanos and young Thanos, there was a pretty dramatic difference.
Yep.
So
he's a great actor.
Yeah, I mean, Cable is very different, and how he played it is fairly accurate. I think he could have been a little bulkier, but the other characters that they were looking at, or the other actors they were looking at for that character, were even smaller. But pretty sick. I think you had Bishop in Days of Future Past, if I'm not mistaken. I forget. It's been ages since I watched those, but you got those two characters, Cable and Bishop, would be dope to see in the same universe. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, moving on. Rosario Dawson says at least one episode of Ahsoka has been cut together, and Dave Filoni says it was a religious experience. What do you think?
Well, I just want to say how impressive it is that they have a full episode that's cut together. Obviously, the CG is not going to be all the way done with anything. However, that's really impressive because, I mean, they only started filming, 3 or 4 months ago?
Mm-hmm.
And, they're wrapping up filming now. I mean, that's, again, pretty impressive.
I mean, you got the Disney machine, the editing is probably its own warehouse. It's just they're pumping it out, and I mean, that might also say quite a bit about the budget. A lot of people talking about the cheapness of Obi-Wan.
Yep.
Especially compared to Mando and these other, Disney Plus. It's like I didn't feel it as much. I could see how people were saying that. It did feel kind of like really cheap production. But that really wasn't the point of the show. You know what I mean? So I didn't bug me. With Ahsoka, you're going to want some CGI. You're going to want some high flying acrobatics. You want some nice fight scenes, choreography, a lot of lightsaber layover. You want some CGI fights, that type of thing. It's going to be a little more active than just some geezer, working his way through deserts.
Yep. Well, and I think I just want to say this. Oh, and I feel like it's a no-brainer that this would be a religious experience for Dave Filoni, because this has been his baby.
Mm-hmm.
Ahsoka's been his baby since Clone Wars, and he's the one that brought her into Mandalorian. He's the one that's got her into Rebels, and have just been pioneering this character and
turned her into a real character,
well, exactly, and
a comparable character, you know what I mean? Like a top tier character, as somebody that a normal person would actually recognize and know.
Exactly. Well, I mean, if you would have asked me 6 years ago, who Ahsoka Tano was, I'd be like, oh, she's that annoying chick from Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And Rebels helped me change that perspective. Then I went back and watched Clone Wars, and I was like, oh, there's a lot more here. Because I was at first, watching Clone Wars originally, it was just like, oh, she's just some annoying chick. Discard. That was that initial thought. Yeah. And Rebels changed all that for me. And now with Mandalorian and her own show, it's like she is top tier of what Star Wars is right now.
Moving on down here, for you Disney Plus lovers, increasing their prices to $11 a month. And then they're adding an ad-supported version, which you still have to pay for $8 a month. What do you think?
I get it I get it bundled with my Verizon plan. I don't think that's changing, so huzzah.
Maybe. Because
I mean,
this is coming right at the end, because I had that 3 years for $7, whatever. Got it months before Disney Plus dropped. It was like some promo thing, and you can get it for
I remember
years.
that.
I think that's coming to an end, and that's why all of this is starting to. So this is a bait and switch, 100%. What do they need to do? They need to pay more people to make to what? Like they're Disney. They're making their own products. You know, it's like it's different from Netflix, who has to pay for licensing fees and you know, pay actors and production for their own films and stuff specifically for Netflix. There's a big overhead there, you know, like there's a substantial overhead. That's why things come and go on Netflix so easily, is because they only pay for the rights for these films for X amount of months. There's weird deals and stuff like that, but Disney is just, they're taking things from their vault and they're giving them to people that are paying for the platform. So this is a little bit more on the stingy side, in my opinion.
I definitely understand where Disney's coming from. I feel like, I mean, here's the thing. Disney and I feel like HBO Max have been the only, like, out of all of the streaming services that have been putting out quality content consistently. Netflix did it great for multiple years. Then they just stopped putting out good stuff on their platform. And now it's extremely hit and miss. While Disney, super solid. HBO, super solid. So that's where I'm at. I'm willing to pay for something like Disney Plus, even if with a price increase, because it's solid.
Yeah, it's just a completely different animal and how they operate and the money they make and where that money goes. Like, they're not comparable. You know, you can't compare it to HBO. You can't compare it to, I mean, you do get some HBO heavy stuff on, or not HBO, some Warner Brothers heavy content on HBO, but there's other things that they pay for. These companies have an overhead. They have something to risk. You know, Disney has nothing to risk. You know, what are we talking about? Like, their production fees for making, you know, the ILM documentary, like, it's all in-house. You know, the Star Wars content that they release, you know, like, it brings in people to their subscription services. And it's Disney. They don't need to, it's Disney for one thing. They got to keep that in mind. And then for them to bump it up and then kind of slap you in the face with a paid ad version, which is more expensive than the promo version that I paid for the non-ad version, you know. So it's just, I don't see the correlation between overhead and the necessary increase in price, aside from a legitimate bait and switch. You know, like, they literally just reported, I have it here, going down the list actually, or actually in that same note, hitting 152 million subscribers on Disney Plus, I believe, and then 221 million total, including ESPN Plus and Hulu. So, I mean, holy, like, that's so much. And then for them to be like, okay, we're at our max. We have our most subscribers. Now it's time to raise the price, you know, because if we lose some, no big deal. It's not about, you know, making sure that they can pay, you know, the Mandalorian team appropriately or properly fund another, you know, season of Obi-Wan. It's Disney. It's strictly profits. It's not,
So
there's nothing.
I'm actually looking at an article from May 11th of this year where it specifically says that the Disney Plus service isn't profitable, and that Chapek confirms that there will be price increases, but didn't have any details at the moment. So now we're getting the details of the price increase.
But the profit that they're expecting is, okay, so if all of these people paid rental fees for these movies, or they went out and bought these movies instead of watching them for free, this is the money that we're losing. You know what I mean? Like, unless it's specifically like production costs for Disney Plus exclusives, you know, they're not making that money back because of subscription fees, which, again, I just dropped 152 million subscribers, is pretty beefy, you know? So it's like, we're not talking about Paramount Plus, who's like scratching, you know, clawing their way in existence, you know, and Netflix, who's sliding down, you know. Now we're talking about Disney, where the loss that they're talking about is them taking, you know, Little Mermaid and moving it to their own specific platform, not having to pay any type of licensing fee or anything, and then giving it to people that are paying a monthly subscription on their specific service. So it's like, I just think that they're two different animals, and that this whole perception of lost value is based around like the greediest type of, opinion. It's like, well, all these people could be buying the movie instead of just watching it for free. It's like, what? No, so, dude, I'm not going to go buy another copy of Lady and the Tramp, because I want to watch it on the streaming platform.
I mean, for them, Disney, it is a pure I mean, they're all about getting their bottom line, their profit. To operate Disney Plus, to get all of the content for Disney Plus out there, it takes X amount of dollars.
Yeah, your hosting and bandwidth fees and all of that shit.
Then all of the original content, which is
Star
Wars, Marvel.
Do they have a provider? Like, I know like Netflix and some of them even share like the same, it's like their hosting or what have you, like their server space essentially.
I don't know about that, but
Disney comes off like they would have their own server farm specifically for Disney Plus,
It's either an Amazon AWS thing or it's their own proprietary thing. Either way, there's costs associated with running servers, either rental or just operational. Then there's cost of all the original content they're bringing out. So I get why they're bringing the price up, because they need to match at minimum what they're trying to put out for us. And Disney Plus as a service has been making negative dollars for them. It's been a heck of a lot of PR for them, just negative dollars for them.
I mean, I don't see how that's possible. If you look at the grand scheme of Disney profits, the amount of attention that their properties bring to everything else that they have, like the parks, like these shows do rekindle and give certain fans hope. Like, I wasn't too interested in Star Wars when episode 9 was dropping, but after Mandalorian, I want to go to Galaxy's Edge, and I want to consume Star Wars again and stuff. So,
I mean, they did the 3-year at $7 as a promotional thing to get people interested, and they've been able to get content to bring people in consistently.
You had a perception of Disney Plus when it was announced. You knew what was going to be on it.
Oh, totally.
Even without the new content that they're making specifically for it, Disney Plus was worth getting at the time because of this huge backlog of Disney products. The fact that they trickle some of them out and they release some and they don't do others, and it's very strange. I know certain properties they have that they put up there, they do have to kind of share rights with, just because of like when it was made and who produced it and stuff like that. But, like every single Disney animated film from the 90s is worth paying, that $7 a year. Then you got the movies that were already coming out that people were just like, oh my God, all these are going to be next to the original cartoons, and, all the TV shows. And I don't watch it, but background, just while the baby's playing, have the like Mickey Mouse Funhouse or whatever playing in the background and stuff like that. Like, it's just there's so much Disney content, and having access to it in one single hub made it worth it to begin with. And like, yeah, I know that they're spending money on these original series and stuff, but they're also doing like crazy stuff, like making the volume, and also, like I said, with these Lego sets and these toys, and let's be real, where Star Wars makes its money, my friend. You know what I mean? Like, Andor is probably not going to be made for kids, but they'll have Andor Lego sets, and they'll have Andor, toy sets and stuff like that, and action figures. So, they're not. I think overall grand scheme of things, I don't think Star Wars is hurting, and any of the other Disney properties either. But I could see how, to investors, they're just like, yeah, we need to raise the price because it costs this much to do this, and we need to make up that difference. But I don't know. It's like I said, it's totally understandable. It just feels a little scummy and bait and switchy for me. Moving on, Prey. The Predator prequel, most popular Hulu release of all time. I'm sure you haven't seen it, right?
Nope.
Have you seen any of the Predator films?
On TV when I was a kid.
Even they're all like
The,
super edited. Probably the second one mostly with
uh,
New York, I think was the setting.
no, I can't remember. I just remember it was a super edited one on TNT that my
Yeah, it'd
dad
have to be.
like would just watch on occasion. I
Yeah.
mean, probably the only ones. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, I'm not a huge horror film fan, and I say that in the sense that I do like a good number of people that are into film consider, Predator to be he's a horror film monster. He's your no different than Mike Myers or Freddy Krueger, or he's a movie monster. But he's like the coolest movie monster. You know what I mean? So the first movie was just really good. There's definitely some questionable lines in that movie. A whole lot of violence, a lot of gore, but just a cool all around action film. Second one, I saw a lot on TV growing up. Iffy, it was kind of like whatever. Then everything after it was horrible. Like Aliens versus Predator was like one of the worst films I ever saw. I remember going to the movie theater for that. And then pretty much every Predator film, and I don't want to say alien film because you have some really good alien films that have come out, but Predator became cheap, kind of like you had with Jason X and Jason Goes to New York or whatever it is, Jason in Manhattan. With this particular film, I watched it. You get your idiots out there who are just like, oh, she's a Mary Sue and she can do anything and blah 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 blah. And I've watched some reviews after it, and it's the premise of it is the original Predator. They come down, they hunt for sport. They have their trophies, they take their skulls and spinal cords and stuff, and they come back X amount of years and they do their thing. This story, I'm not sure if it was the first one that landed. It crash landed. I remember seeing there was like a crash scene, and it's basically this, that era. Like you have Far Cry, and then you have Far Cry Primal, where it's like you take the concept and you just move it back in time, and it's in 1700s, I believe, 19 or something like that. Might be wrong. A lot of the imagery with him kind of understanding how this planet works, the hierarchy of predator and prey, and he's like fighting animals and stuff because he's just going after whatever's the strongest thing to fight. You know what I mean? He's fighting bears, he's fighting wolves, and then eventually sees humans and what they're doing and the weapons they have, and then he just starts going after humans. Because it's the hierarchy of what he's achieving. And then the character is kind of like old school in terms of design, has like a skull type faceplate instead of that crazy metal one that you get from the movies. So the design is a bit, I don't want to say dated in a bad way, but it's dated for this era. It's just pretty much a straightforward deal. They say that the characters are Mary Sue because she just has like an answer for everything, but it's just well established in the film that she's very observant and very smart. She pays attention and she learns fairly quickly, and she's able to kind of outsmart him. Which, I mean, that's what Arnie did in the original film too. He's not going to go toe to toe with the Predator. He had to outsmart him and kind of trick him and trap him, and that's what she does in the film. And I think it was really good. It's not like gory. It's just, you get a little bit of blood, you get your kills, but it's very just kind of grounded. It's like this character has to stop this unknown beast that's out there killing other tribe members and animals and stuff like that. So I recommend it. If you're not looking for like a deep story or for any type of explanation, I guess any further past when they kind of landed, then it's a good watch. So I do recommend it. What do we got here? Oh yeah, new evidence reveals when Hulk movie rights could return to Disney. I forget what it was, like March of 2023. Now, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but Universal owns the rights to the Incredible Hulk. Did you know that?
I did.
That's why the original Ed Norton one was a Universal production, which they didn't do a bad job in my opinion. But what do you think? What do you like? Where are we at with the Hulk? Is it even worth bringing a Hulk movie now?
I mean, I feel like Mark Ruffalo has been around. For such a long time in the MCU that because he's been around since the first Avengers, right?
Hmm.
Like, I just don't see how, like, somewhere in his contract there's a stipulation that if he's still doing MCU stuff in 2023, that there's not like an opportunity for a movie or something.
Yeah.
Um,
I might.
I'd be really disappointed if, like, they just say She-Hulk is his swan song or something stupid like that, and we don't see Hulk
I mean,
that much after that.
I mean, they lameified the character, dude. Like, that is no longer the Avengers Hulk. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and
he's gone.
What I would really like is to have something traumatic happen to him, where he, like, the original Hulk comes back, and there's the true separation between Bruce Banner and Hulk.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun, but, like, obviously Bruce would have more understanding of how to control himself, but having that separation, because I feel like Bruce puts on too much of, oh, we don't want to hurt things, we don't want to smash or anything like that.
That's what people wanted. Like,
oh, that's a very,
it was like apes slamming tables and walls when he first started smashing the aliens in Avengers. Like, people were just like stomping their feet and just like clapping. It's like, that's what they want to see. They want to see him flying around destroying shit. That's what he's there for.
I was very when Ragnarok came out, I was hopeful, like, that we would just see, that Hulk continue, and then
I'm fine with
Hulk.
I'm fine with that level of communication from Hulk Ragnarok. However, I do consider Ragnarok to be a wasted opportunity, because it was a culmination of different stories, and it would feel cheap if they were to go and do Planet Hulk. And I think I discussed Planet Hulk a little bit, but you have the Illuminati. The Illuminati are a group of characters, including Doctor Strange, and Robert, well, not Iron Man, Professor X, Reed Richards, I forget. There's a number of them, but in the comic books, at one point they do decide to shoot Hulk off into space because he's just too dangerous and he's too uncontrollable. And then he crash lands on a planet where he then kind of takes over the planet, reproduces, makes a big family, and then returns to Earth, where you have, him just basically going after everybody in revenge. And he's just like a force to be reckoned with. Insane levels of power. But they can't really do that. I think that would have been an interesting path to take, where Hulk becomes somewhat of a villain at some point. You know what I mean? Then you can bring in the Thunderbolts. Red Hulk be a protagonist this time, or not this time, but you know what I mean, what you would expect, and kind of go from there. But they've really just made him a sissy, dude. Like, he sucks as a character now. I don't want to see anything about him. Hulk was the coolest parts of, like, Avengers and pretty much all of those films when he got down, you know what I mean? But now it's like, I don't care. The whole in-game scene where he just couldn't even muster up the will to smash some things, like, it blatantly told you that character no longer exists. And I don't want to see a movie of that character. I don't think it's especially with them releasing She-Hulk now. Yeah, it would feel wasted.
And that's why, like, if they were to make a Hulk movie, there needs to be something traumatic to happen to the character, so we get Primal Hulk again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That would be the only scenario in which I want a movie.
Well, I mean, with Thor too, you're getting a good layout. I mean, they're not per canon, but you're getting some decent representation of the different types of Thors that you've had in the comic series. With Hulk, it's the same thing, right? Like, there are, like, World Breaker Hulk, and I kind of drawing a blank, but you have all these like amazing storylines with Hulk in particular. But I just personally find it hard to believe that they would be able to pull anything from the character that is there now. You know what I mean? Like you said, they can have that dramatic separation, but it's like, I guess they play ball pretty well with allowing them to use the character, but in terms of like making movies, it's not something they've planned on doing. I mean, it might be a Marvel thing too, to be honest. They had their movie, and it's just too much of a headache to deal with otherwise. You know what I mean? So,
Yep.
but moving on here, Carl Urban recently told GQ that he would play Judge Dredd again if he could. I certainly would be interested to revisit the character. There's such a great depth of material there. I really like Judge Dredd, the film, or Dredd, the film. It doesn't seem like a movie that you would have partaked in.
Nope.
Yeah. It's a very video game premise in that movie. Have you seen the original with Stallone?
On TNT.
Yeah, well, I mean, me too. I think actually, I don't think I ever rented it, but
I've seen so many movies, and like if you were to say a name to me, I'd probably not be able to tell you. But if I started seeing it, I'd be like, oh yeah, I was in front of the TV playing with Legos while my dad was watching it. Like that's the type of like that. That was my childhood.
Well, Judge Dredd is a comic book, and the original movie was pretty like hokey. It's your typical like 80s, 90s type of action film. This one, Carl Urban plays the character. You never really see Judge Dredd's face. He is the law, judge, jury, and executioner. They basically just try people on the spot, essentially. It takes place in like kind of like a slummy future, overpopulated small city that's kind of like, not small city, but it's a city that's kind of blocked off from the harsh environments outside. And then you have the you have the judges who basically keep everybody in check. And they're like super trained, super just on point by the book, like literally by the book, as if they were a judge. The premise of the film is narcotics being shipped in town. It's an epidemic. You have a new recruit who is psychic. She has psychic abilities. Dredd doesn't care for the mutants, I guess they refer to them as, or I think he calls them freaks, but basically like another tier of human that has a certain level of psychic abilities. Dredd's training this new recruit, and no matter the situation, no matter how absolutely absurd and crazy violent the situation is, he's still running it like a training mission. You know what I mean? So he's like, what do we do in this situation? Well, there's a volley of gunfire coming in and blowing out parts of the wall. He's sitting there casually like, well, how are you gonna handle the situation? What's the protocol? But goes into this building where there's murder. Mama, who's like the main bad guy, is at the top of the tower. There's X amount of floors. Dredd, they get locked in. They got to work their way up the tower, get to the top, and defeat the boss. So they defeat the boss. They're no longer trapped inside the building, and they're free to leave. Like, that's essentially the premise of the film, and that's all it needed to be. Super, super good. I don't think there's great depth of material there, like Carl Urban said, but I do feel that it's like a super sick, RoboCop-esque type world, grunginess and stuff like that. So if you like that type of gameplay, you know what I mean, where it would be like, you're working your way up levels and they progressively get harder enemies, and then you're going for the final boss. With that in mind, watching that film, it's actually pretty neat. It's a good watch. So that is all I have. Let me go ahead and scroll through here. Actually, I
got one more thing real quick.
What do you got?
So the little Groot shorts came out this week as well.
I was going to mention that. Yeah.
Yep, they're really fun. They're all about 5 minutes, just little itty bitty things. Mm-hmm. But there's one where Groot is on the pot, reading an Everybody Poops book in Cree. Oh, and on the cover is Thanos.
Oh my god! So, even Thanos poops.
Even Thanos.
It's canon.
Poops.
Canon
poops. 100% canon.
Yeah,
Yep.
One thing that I ran across, I'll try to put a link, but somebody was they had a review and they were talking about Black Adam, and they were kind of going after Dwayne Johnson, and he's claimed that the Black Adam project is a passion project for him, is very close to his heart and all this stuff. And he looks the character to a certain extent. However, if you pay attention to the footage that you get from the trailers, there's not a single bit of effort put forth in making Rock look like Black Adam, like at all. It's just him in the suit. It's like, if you want to consider the suit, yeah. But Black Adam typically has pointed ears. He has pointed ears. He has sharp eyebrows, very definitive eyebrows. He has a like a widow's peak hairline, very sharp, almost like vampire-esque type hairline, and also speaks with a thick Egyptian accent because he is Egyptian. However, if you watch the footage, it is literally just The Rock in a Black Adam suit with no attempts at any type of makeup or anything like that, speaking in an American accent. What do you think?
I mean, there's no way The Rock can do any type of other accent.
True, but would Spock be Spock? Would you be able to determine who Spock is if he didn't have his eyebrows and his ears?
No.
So
you need the pointy ears and the
yes.
eyebrows for Spock.
The same thing for this character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's very distinct features for that character, and the
I mean,
hairline specifically. Rock didn't want to put a wig on, essentially, in this.
And that's fine, but if he's not going to do that, you got to get the pointy ears. You got to get eyebrows.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is no representation of the character where he doesn't have that hair. And that's my thing, is like, it's not like, oh, well, in this Fringe comic from 2013, there's a center panel where, you know, you see Black Adam in a picture and he's bald, you know, and it's like, okay, well, well, you know, they don't even have that for this. It is strictly just Rock. There's no effort in making him look anything like Black Adam. Rock just thinks he looks like Black Adam, and that's good enough. You know what I mean? So, not a fan personally. I think that's also been something that's been irking me personally when I see this, and it's like, yeah, whatever. I hate that scaly design that Warner Brothers does on every single suit that they do. But it looks fine, and he's huge, and so is Black Adam. But once you get up past the collar, it's literally just The Rock. It's literally just The Rock. You know what I mean? So, you know, I thought that was fun. I retweeted that just because, you know, it did kind of irk me a little bit.
Yeah. I did see in an article, speaking of Warner Brothers stuff, that beyond Shazam 2 and Black Adam, that the only other truly greenlit film in production for DC is Joker 2.
Speaking of which, Joker 2 will reportedly have a $150 million budget to produce due to increased wages and complicated musical sequences. And I wrote this. This is not news. I guess maybe to you, but Joker 2 is rumored to be a musical. Lady Gaga is playing Harley Quinn. That's confirmed. And the original budget for the film, which had a gritty, realistic feel, which was very indicative of that film.
I mean, I'm fine with Lady Gaga playing that part. I feel like she's gonna,
especially after what's her face, like way too good. Even though the movie sucked, like it was perfect casting.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I mean, I'm fine with her playing the part. I
just don't care. I just don't care. So.
I'm more indifferent about it, I should say.
Yeah. I'm here for the train wreck. I'll watch.
If it's a musical and they're spending $150 million for a musical, I mean, that's not what people are going to want after what we saw in the first Joker film.
Yeah, that's what I wrote. I put, this is my tweet when I retweeted it. Okay, so let's step back for a second. The low budget grittiness is what made the first one work so well with the source material. Now, this is rumored to be a musical and with triple the budget. This will not be the Joker that fans are looking for.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're talking about where he's probably going to be sitting there like all like, you know, dozed out or whatever. And then just she breaks into song and then he gets up and starts singing with her and then they start dancing and then it's all in his head, you know, it's going to be shit like that, but it's going to be so weird. And I also think that changing that budget is going to be pretty detrimental to the vibe that you get from the film. So, yeah.
I mean, I would understand if like they raise it $25 million to like account for wage changes and everything like that. But I mean, that's, like you said, it's triple. Like that's
Yeah.
substantial.
It's going to be dumped into a lot of things that I think are going to detract from, this is how Warner Brothers works. They throw a line out, they see what gets nibbles, and then they just yank. They yank on it. They hope that they catch a fish. They don't wait for the bait to be taken. It's like Marvel, for example. You could argue that Phase 4 is overly progressive, a lot more preachy, a little bit less precise, a little bit more haphazard in terms of how they're handling directorial choices and actors and things like that. You can make that argument, but it's like it is over time. You know what I mean? Like they're reeling in people now. It's like they got the people that they were going to make their money off of. Now they need to hook the rest. Warner Brothers always seems like it's like, here's 5 different Batman, whichever one you like, we're going to take it and we're going to triple the budget and we're going to pump in everything that we want to put in it. You know what I mean? So it's like these actors or these directors have the opportunity to make what they want, but as soon as they make something that people like, we're going to take it, which is, it's like, they got away with it with Nolan for a few films because he was so posh that he just made demands. And since he refused to come back, they went and just, and found another director that they can kind of push around and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I'm just worried that this movie is going to suck. But at the same time, like I said, I don't really care. So whatever. Yeah. The first one's watchable. It's not rewatchable. Some people would beg to differ, but I don't know. It makes my throat hurt when I watch him coughing like that, or choking on his laughter. Yep. Another little bit of news in here. Ghost of Tsushima movie could be entirely spoken in Japanese with a Japanese cast, according to director Chad Stahelski, who told Collider that Sony is on board for those plans. Which, I don't know if you've seen Ghost of Tsushima.
The video game?
Yeah, super gorgeous game. But yeah, I found that interesting because I didn't know they were making a movie to begin with. And if they make it with, in a Japanese setting with Japanese actors and, make us Westerners read for a change, I'm all for that. I have no problems with that. Giant freaking robot on Twitter. Proven sources, hundreds of confirmed, is this person's description. Leaked out a bit of news, a little bit of speculation. Tweet states Dwayne Johnson is going to be made an official advisor, quote, to the new vision of DC comic book adaptations and will be heavily involved in helping guide its future. Why? Why? Like, I can't even comprehend why Dwayne Johnson would be on the list, of people to determine where DC goes. There's a lot of decisions that WB makes that I've never gotten on board with, and I don't know why they keep doing it, but they keep doing it. So yeah. We'll see. I want some comic book nerds. I want some Dave Filoni's thrown in there. I want a Kevin Feige. Like I said, you give Jim Lee just might not be up for it. He might not be up for being put in the crosshairs. But Jim Lee is like who you want in charge of all that. If you really want a Dave Filoni to be in charge of DC, it would be Jim Lee, like 100%. There's other artists and stuff and writers and stuff over the years that you could argue would be good too, but you really need somebody that's been involved with DC writing the comics to be involved, so that they can be like, okay, so this is what was received really well in the comics. It has a lot of fans, and if we're going to use this, we get a little wiggle room, but here are the key things that made these runs popular and what people will want to see, and then go and do it. You know what I mean? Right now, like I stated last week, it's like they're just throwing darts at a dartboard, and if they hit the board, then so be it. So I don't know.
I don't know why they would want to include Dwayne in there unless he is a super secret DC comic book nerd, like, and knows every single thing, which for some reason I highly doubt, unless he's willing to put up a lot of money just to have that position,
Yeah.
But going back, I feel like ideally reboot the whole thing with a brand new Batman, brand new Superman, brand new Flash, brand new everyone, and get a Justice League series going. I feel like that's what they have to do.
Yeah. I just think also you'd always have like a reset period when they had to do stuff like that. You know, it's like from The Dark Knight Rises to what was the first one? The Snyderverse. You know, there were a good chunk of years, not like a lot, but you know, like 3 or 4 years where people could get it out of their mind. And they started wanting it a little bit more, but they won't do that because you got to keep the wheels rolling and the train moving, you know. And
well, and I get that, and I understand that they're I mean, between now, what they're planning now, and when that stuff is going to come out, it's going to be about 3 years between writing the movies, producing and editing the movies, then to release is about 3 years.
They're playing on it though. You still got the DCEU being played with. You got Shazam, you got Black Adam, you got now Hawkman being introduced, who's part of the Justice League, JLA. You got you know, Dr. Fate. You got characters that are being introduced while your main characters are being backburned, and then you know, no real true direction. So like, well, yeah, I agree with you where they need to wipe clean and start fresh. My personal recommendation is put some comic book nerds in those higher up positions to overwatch and make sure that these directors don't get too sassy. You know what I mean? Because directors are very, you know, narcissistic in their vision. You know, they're artists. And you know, I consider myself an artist as well, but I also understand that saying that and portraying that is annoying, you know, and it's never really as good as you make it seem when you start saying stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, they need that oversight. So, we're gonna go ahead and finish it here. I had some other ones on there, but you know, they're all small stories, and we could talk way too long about each of them. But anything else you want to throw in there?
No, I mean, I've talked about the few things that I saw over the week, and I mean, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. What is in store for next week, I'm not sure. I know you and I both have kind of conflicting schedules. We may skip it. We may see if we can squeeze in an hour recording earlier in the week, or maybe we'll release later or whatever. So this may be the first hiccup that we have in our streaming schedule, but we shall see. We'll discuss. But I'm going to do my little close out here, the plug. For anybody that's interested, we do have our social media over at Nerd Chatter Show on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Facebook. You know, and like I said, I've been streaming on Twitch. Going to do a little bit of that today as well. You can also find any of our podcast episodes on any of the podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and pretty much anything else. I think Stitcher's on there. If you're interested in becoming part of our community, we do have a Discord where we share links and videos and trailers and news and links to games and things like that. So you want to hit the link down below. You can come join us there. If you're listening on our podcast platforms, you can head on over to nerdchatter.com for any of the links. You can head on over to our YouTube channel for more specific links for the episode if you're interested. And yeah, for anybody that's interested in our Patreon, we do have some Patreon specific content for our supporters over there. Extra segments, some advanced releases, you know, confirmations on some like run of shows and things like that, what we're going to be talking about and all that good stuff. So plenty of ways to get involved. Want to go ahead and check those out. Feel free. Garrett, another week down, my friend. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
And, you know, like I said, we'll discuss on how our schedules will be for next week. And, you know, if we miss it, we miss it. No biggie. We'll follow up with the following week after that. Maybe it's a dead week and we won't need to do it, you know.
Watch. Now that you said it, it's going to be completely hectic.
You'll be recording it on like cell phones, terrible quality, all stitched together and shit. Yeah.
From hotels, you know, whatever.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll call it there. Again, appreciate you stopping by, listening to the show. Hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, and all that good stuff. You guys take it easy.